This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is Tuesday, August 27th, 2024, as we are closing in on Bash in Berlin, and we will have our predictions for you later this week, so look for that. But we've got a lot to talk about tonight with Monday Night Raw that took place in Providence. One that was kind of weird in some respects. Yes, some critiques are coming your way, you know this show, but also some praise. I think that having Chad Gable in the main event of Raw in a one-on-one match, when's the last time that happened? I mean, maybe during his run with Gunther when he was trying to take the IC title and had like 3 matches in succession to try to beat Gunther for the Intercontinental title prior to WrestleMania. But Chad Gable in the main event doesn't happen too often, and I love it. And yes, of course, credit to Uncle Howdy too, Bo Dallas, who continue to create some interesting but realistic, grounded, based characters that aren't out in the ether. Ones that are somewhat believable. They're all just disturbed. They've all been wronged in some way. They do have a mission statement of coming after those that believe they have families that are true and pure, and that he is there to make sure that, you know, he's taking care of those that are weak. You know, he's taking care or trying to dispose of those who are taking advantage of others. Again, that's me paraphrasing or interpreting what so far I understand is their mission, but they at least have constant character development every single week. Something I think that is definitely needed in this Wyatt 6 group that has been received as well as you could hope that that would be received. And I don't know about you, but every time I see Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy, you see Bray Wyatt. His mannerisms, the beard, his smile, all of it, it just makes you just miss Bray that much more. And it's not to say that we aren't appreciative of Bo Dallas and the Uncle Howdy character, because we are. But it also is a constant reminder of what we've lost in Bray Wyatt. So is it taking anything away from the group? No. They are doing, I'm sure, what Wyndham, i.e. Bray Wyatt, would want them to do. Continue on. Move on. And they are, in a way that's also tributary to Bray, and it's as good as you could hope, really, I think, that it could be. And there's no hocus pocus. If there is, it's minimal. There's none of this teleportation. They are human beings that are wrestlers that are based in some kind of reality. And I think that is a recipe for staying power. And, of course, Eric Rowan, seeing Eric Rowan there is still kind of wild that it's been. I mean, how many years has Eric Rowan been involved in some form or fashion with the Wyatt family, to the Bludgeon Brothers, to just Rowan, to him carrying around a giant mechanical spider? I mean, he's gone through all iterations, but all have been tied to Bray Wyatt's original group, and now he's kind of come full circle. And it's cool to see Eric Rowan. Of course, Joe Gacy is kind of the forgotten one in the group. Most of us who have not watched NXT don't know who he is. We're only learning who he is through this character right now. Nikki Cross has kind of been the creepy ring girl. Yeah, some of you, hopefully most of you understand that reference from the movie The Ring. But anyway. Or The Grudge, same thing in a way. So there's still room for improvement in character development, but there are 5 members, 6 members. It does take time for actual character development to take root and to understand who and what everyone is. But it's been really fun. And the match with Chad Gable and Uncle Howdy ended with Chad Gable losing in the main event to Uncle Howdy, and I think that was the right move, despite the fact that Chad Gable has been one of the most improved stars of the year. He continues to just get better, I think. There's more ahead of him. I hope he eventually wins a singles championship. I think he is due for an Intercontinental title run. I still believe that. Although with Braun Breaker holding it and he's a heel, it's not going to be anytime soon that Chad Gable gets a chance to challenge for that unless he changes brands or, that's really pretty much it, because he's not going to challenge for the world title and win yet. But Chad Gable, I'm so glad that the Triple H has given him an opportunity to showcase what he can really do and give him a really constant voice and a constant presence on the show. And he's helping out the Creed brothers as well, who have little to no personality, but they can wrestle their asses off. And it's just been fun. So, but think about this. Vince McMahon would roll over in his grave if he was in it yet. But you keep hearing reports that Vince's health is declining and then it's not and all that. But I mean, who knows? If Vince was in his grave, maybe he can like pre-roll over in his grave. He's not even there yet. But if he was there, he would absolutely lose his mind if you had Bo Dallas versus Chad Gable in the main event of Raw. Imagine proposing that to Vince McMahon right now. If Vince McMahon, you say, hey, Vince, you're back in charge of Raw, but by the way, we're going to do the Raw main event. It's going to be Bo Dallas. Yes, Uncle Howdy character, but it's Bo Dallas versus Chad Gable. What do you think, pal? I mean, imagine Vince's, you're ribbing me, So it's kind of crazy. And when I saw that as the main event, I'm like, really? In a almost knee-jerk disappointment kind of reaction, but then also understanding that you need to build new stars. You can only do that by presenting them in big spots. Anyway, so that was the main event of Raw, and I thought it was fine. The continual VHS tapes, I think, are effective. I would still tone down a little bit of the hyperbole or the need to decode some things and talk a little bit more in plain language. I don't need it being spoken to me like I'm in third grade, but also don't speak to me with a riddle wrapped in a Rubik's Cube. There's got to be a happy medium. It's not nearly as twisted and decodable or non-decodable that from what Bray Wyatt gave us, but it still does, I think, need to be simplified a bit from the language they use. But some of you may enjoy this kind of, what did he say? Let me dissect every word. I don't have time for that. Yeah, you may, and you may enjoy all the riddles. I just want to get straight to the point, but maybe that's my simple-mindedness. So, anyway, moving on. Randy Orton also gave a promo. And you know what? Randy Orton gave a weird promo. And I don't understand this promo. Now, not to say I don't understand the purpose of him giving it. The purpose of him giving it clearly was to endear himself to the fans further, give them appreciation, and remind him that he's a world champion. That's kind of it. But Randy Orton endearing himself to the fans feels sacrilegious. When he's talking about it's been each and every one of us inside his head, that I just inherently reject when a wrestler, I don't care who they are, tries to pander to me that I get to cheer for myself, because that's really what you're cheering for when the wrestlers are crediting us for things in promos and then the crowd cheers. What you're really doing is giving yourself a round of applause. It feels icky. Now, they don't look at it that way. They look at it as giving them thanks. That's what retirement speeches are for. That's what Hall of Fame speeches are for. Or, if you're in Mark Henry's case, a salmon suit swerve, which is still one of the greatest swerves of all time. And this very much did feel like a Hall of Fame speech for Randy Orton. And he's never been one to give great promos. He's average to very good most of the time. But he's never been one to give long, lengthy promos. This was the longest promo I can remember from Randy Orton. And it was weird. I can only describe it as weird. It made sense from what he was saying of giving us a 15-time world champion. But then they suddenly bring up, conveniently, the world championship that they just brought back out of nowhere and he said it was reborn. Well, then if it's reborn, which Seth brought back a year and a half ago, then is it the same title that you won or is it not? I mean, maybe that's not the point. But I still don't understand when they brought it back why they didn't try to piggyback off the lineage of the previous belt. I don't care if they change the look of the belt. That's fine. Belts change all the time in appearance. But the lineage should remain. That's what gives the belt its value. Who holds it, for how long, and what those reigns mean are how belts accrue their value. That's the only way they accrue their value, actually. That, and having those who are in the company try to chase it. It's a simple supply-demand. There's less of something, it's worth more. So, when Randy Orton's talking about becoming a 15-time champion, yeah, okay, that's true. But does WWE not sit there and go, man, I wish we had just kept it as pretending that this is the same belt, just repackaged, has a different coat of paint, but it does have the same lineage that carried from when Triple H absorbed it from WCW. Booker T brought it in. The Rock won the WCW championship, which became the World Championship. Triple H then won it infamously. When I see that big gold belt, I think of Triple H in the early 2000s when he was part of Evolution. That's how I view that belt. Yes, Goldberg held it. We had others hold it. There's a long line. Even Kane held it at one point. But why are we killing that belt dead? If you resurrect it, I'm not going to, I guess, beat a dead horse here. But Randy Orton talks about that. Talks about, what his career's been and bringing up the demons of his career. All this, which is, it felt very Hall of Fame-ish. However, we did not have an appearance from Gunther in this promo. It was really to just have the fans get a chance to, I guess, pat Randy Orton on the back and vice versa. Fine. He also acknowledged how fans are now singing his music, which he was thankful for. I don't know why. That's the cool thing to do now. Really, it's just because of the music of Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn in some respect, among others. The sing-along songs are a staple of a lot of the baby faces right now. And Randy Orton had a song all along that we could sing to, and the fans are just now realizing it, which Randy Orton did allude to. So here's a question, though, for you guys. I know Cody Rhodes wasn't on Raw, but do you think that if Cody Rhodes didn't have his music, would he be as popular as he is right now? I don't know. That music is a lot of what made him successful. Yes, I know he has his own talent. He is very good in the ring, decent on the mic, all that. But I wonder how much of it is attributable to his music. Not going on a Cody Rhodes rant, all right? That may be saved for later. For now, though, it's a genuine question. I don't know. We don't know. But it definitely is part of his success in a significant way. I just don't know what that number is. How do you quantify it? All right, moving on. In Monday Night Raw. So, where do we start? Let me start with Sid Vicious. There was a memorial graphic for Sid Vicious, who died earlier in the day at age 63. And yeah, it's sad. I mean, I wasn't a fan when Psycho Sid was actually still competing, or if he did, he was again, I came into 1997, and it wasn't a time in which Psycho Sid was really at the top of his game. He was on his way out at that point. So I don't really remember watching Psycho Sid as a kid. Many of you who are older than me or have been watching longer than me have fond memories of Sid, or maybe not fond, but some memory of Psycho Sid Vicious. And Michael Cole spoke while clips of Braun Breaker and his dog. Yeah. Oh, God. American-made Braun Stroman, Bronson Reed are arriving earlier in the day. Keep the effing dogs off TV. Why? Ring announcer Samantha Irvin introduced the Judgment Day. And Corey Graves was on commentary. Pat McAfee's gone for football season. And we had, of course, of course, we had somebody deliver the Welcome to Monday Night Raw and All Rise for the Judgment Day from Liv Morgan. I mean, no one's immune to this crap. I do wonder, if they don't announce it at the beginning of the show, are we going to not know what show we're at? I don't know. Moving on. So, we got Carlito said the video was cool. They had a video package that recapped their attack on Damian and Rhea from last week's show. Dom took the mic to speak. People were just all over him. Carlito barked at the crowd in Spanish, and then Dom did the same thing. And Dom spoke in English while saying that Morgan does things for him that Ripley never did, such as helping him beat his deadbeat dad. And Dom said he was entering the tournament for a shot at the Intercontinental title and had Morgan's full support. And that's when Rey Mysterio comes out with Dragon Lee, Joaquin Wilde, and Cruz del Toro. They came in the ring. Rey asked Dom if he's looked in the mirror lately and labeled him a lost soul. Rey said someone needs to put Dom in his place, and Dom said it wouldn't be Rey because he already beat him. Rey said Dom has always been a jackass, and now is an even bigger jackass that he's hanging out with Morgan. Boy, Rey is just bad at insults. Rey is just, he's such he's a family-friendly baby face, you know? I don't think I've ever seen Rey Mysterio, no matter how far he's pushed, do anything insanely violent. Maybe, I'm trying to think. No, do you remember the eye for an eye match with Seth Rollins during the pandemic? And Seth Rollins won that match. He apparently pulled the eye out of Rey Mysterio, and then he threw up. Remember that? Oh, the good old pandemic days. But we had Rey dare Dom to hit him and said he'd love to slap the stupid mustache off his face. And so McDonough then went for the cheap shot. Judgment Day members were quick to be cleared from the ring. And then we got the Judgment Day versus Rey, Dragon Lee, Joaquin Wilde, and Cruz del Toro. So basically the Judgment Day, the new iteration of it versus the LWO. Really fast-paced match, fun match. Went about 13 minutes with the Judgment Day ending up beating LWO with Dom getting the pin on Rey. So another victory for Dom that I love when he gets victories because you know he's going to milk the hell out of it, especially when it's against his dad. So after the match, Morgan jumped on the back of Rhea Ripley, and this broke down because, of course, the LWO was getting beat down after the match. That brought Ripley to the ring. And Dom was on the top rope, but he got caught. He was in the middle of the ring. Ripley was on the other side, and Ripley got caught, as I said. And Priest and Ripley put McDonough and Carlito down with clotheslines after they tried to escape the ringside. And Priest and Ripley hit their finishes simultaneously on McDonough and Carlito. There's a lot happening here, no doubt. I mean, it's a good storyline. One that we understand there's a main thread of Ripley looking just to get revenge on her ex and his current lover. We understand that. We understand the deadbeat dad with Rey and Dom. We understand the rift between Priest and Finn Balor that it was, if you remember, they need to, by the way, remind us of this a little bit more, that Finn Balor is the one that screwed Damian Priest out of the world title. That's a point that I think is being overlooked here because that's important. I mean, it's not all Ripley and Dom and Rhea. It's all fun, and that's been the main thread. But a very close second is Finn and Damian. You know, so I want that to be more highlighted and emphasized instead of the love triangle. But, a little bit of self-motivation here can easily get you pumped up for this match. But here's the one thing. Let's, as a collective team here on the podcast, let's do an over-under on how many bumps Rhea Ripley will take from a male opponent. Whether it's in the mixed tag match here, whether it's even in a run-in, any kind of altercation. Let's see how many bumps Rhea Ripley takes. Because I'm going to guess it's 3 or less. And there will be no punches thrown. Absolutely no punches. You might get a suplex some super safe, quote unquote, wrestling move that won't set the world ablaze today that WWE is promoting, domestic violence, because somebody will these days. But I'm going to say 3 is the over-under. Would you take, over or under, on the number of moves Rhea Ripley will take from a male opponent over the whole course of this weekend? All right? I'm not going to say forever or until this storyline's over, but it may actually be 0. I mean, I could see where a scenario where it's 0. And yes, I'm making this a big deal because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely asinine that you have Rhea Ripley putting down these men that, I mean, come on. Yeah, sure, McDonough's not the biggest guy in the world, but let's be real. McDonough's still a dude. And he, in real life, I would put my money on, and everyone listening to me probably would too, that if it was an MMA fight in an octagon, real, he would defeat Rhea Ripley pretty soundly. So I know this isn't MMA, but this is where they lose me a little bit, that the women are just able to just do whatever they want to the men, and the men can't retaliate, and then they're supposed to sell for the women like they got hit with a shotgun, and it's the same sell that if they got hit by a man. It's ridiculous. Yes, Rhea Ripley's a strong woman physically. Sure she is. She might be taller than some of the men, but here's the kicker. She's still a woman. That's just a biological fact, and that also means that men are much stronger, much faster on the whole. Not a slight against women. I mean, there's a lot of stuff women do better than men, for sure. And so it just comes down to physical fitness. Anyway, I'm going to go down a spiral. I'm catching myself. See how I'm stopping myself here? I'll stop there, but it's going to get ridiculous before it gets better. Yeah, no wonder she wants to work with the men. Rhea Ripley was very, very adamant that she feels like she should be working with men, and yeah, she gets to, because she doesn't have to take any bumps, and they make her look like $1 million, like she's one of the boys, but she ain't. I like Rhea Ripley. I do. I like her character, but stop the pain. All right, let's go to the next part here, and we have Io Sky and Kairi Sane versus Shayna and Zoe Stark. 7.5 minutes with Io Sky and Kairi Sane defeating Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. This happened when Zelina Vega popped out of nowhere at ringside, hit DeVille from behind, and Cole recalled that PFC took out Vega and injured her arm. In the ring, Sky and Sane hit their finishes on Stark, and Sane got the 3 count. So Vega cost them the victory here. So DeVille, Baszler, and Stark continue, even though they have a new faction, continue to lose. That's just what they do, apparently. They're a faction created to lose. So far, anyway. It's not usually how you introduce a new faction. Typically, you give them some kind of hot streak to get them on notice. And they're being noticed, but for the wrong reasons here. All right. We got the Uncle Howdy video, VHS tape that aired. And then Drew McIntyre comes out and said he's only competed in 1 strap match in WWE and he lost. And then he mocks CM Punk's opening line about being great to be alive on a Monday night in Phil in the city. McIntyre mocked Punk for boasting about the role the company has been on when he had nothing to do with it and sat on his ass the last 8 years, which is, it's just true. I want to find the lies that Drew McIntyre is spitting lately. I can't find many. That's the great thing about this character is he's telling the truth, but he's making you hate him for it. That's a very good skill to have as a heel, because people don't necessarily cheer the truth. They often will cheer the person that's speaking rather than what's coming out of their mouth. Even if it's a lie, they'll cheer the person and instead not worry too much about what's coming out of their mouth. And this is the case here with Drew McIntyre. I mean, he doesn't lie a lot. His character is, if anything, more based in truth about what's going on. And then a lot of them, it's how he says it. And then he, of course, runs down fans at times. But let's continue. He said that he took issue with the fans continuing to chant for Punk. He asked the fans if they know what an enabler is. And then he gave us the definition. And he said it's like handing an alcoholic a drink, and said the fans would have to live with the scars that he will leave on Punk's body. And McIntyre said the fans chose nostalgia over the warrior who's been there for them even in the darkest of times. And I still forgive you because, he said, quote, "You know not what you do." He spoke about the damage he would do to Punk during their strap match. And he said there would be a lot of hurt. I feel like he should have said pain. He kept saying there's going to be a lot of hurt. I don't know. Just a small little thing here, of course. That's what I do. I felt like he was trying to search for the word pain, and he couldn't quite find it. But very, 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 very minute issue here. I just wanted to say it because I was thinking it the whole time, like, stop saying hurt. You mean pain. Yeah, it's essentially a synonym, but for the context in what you're saying, the word pain fits much more smoothly than hurt. That's really all I had to say about that. But it's true. McIntyre was here for us during the darkest of times. What am I referring to? Remember the pandemic? I think a lot of us were alive for that. And we're old enough all to remember that. He was the face of the company during that time. He carried the company for a better part of 18 months as champion. And he did a hell of a job. Starting out at WrestleMania 36. The one that we never want to remember ever again. When he faced Brock Lesnar. Beat him in the side of an empty warehouse. And from there, he was the face of the company, going on to face Seth Rollins and going on to face Randy Orton, among many others, and did an excellent job. So it's actually true. And we all are choosing nostalgia, because that's what Punk is right now. He's nostalgia. Not that that's all he is, but excuse me, he is certainly that is a big part of it. We're a generation, as a side note, millennials specifically, my group, we are sick. We have an illness. And that illness is the need for nostalgia. The need to see and feel what we felt in childhood. And I don't know if it's really something that's a detriment to our lives, but if it can be very easily, because if you don't live in reality and you continue to live in the past, then yeah, you are going to hurt the present. And absolutely. But I think that we are the first generation to really, really, really get overwhelmed with nostalgia. And maybe that's also because we're the first generation to really have a lot of our lives recorded, and you can actually go back and see a lot of the things that as children we weren't able to see in the previous generation. YouTube, everything's memorialized and digitalized. Whereas those in the Generation X before us didn't have that opportunity. So perhaps that's what it is, because we do have a lot of our childhoods digitalized, and not to the level of Gen Zers today. I mean, my God, everything's on iPhones and HD. How many times as kids did we have that opportunity? Zero. All the tapes that we get to watch as kids are on VHS. They're grainy, those crappy big handheld camcorders that maybe our parents had. You get to see those old videos of yourself. But today, you talk about sick for nostalgia. I think it's going to get worse. I think that this generation right now, that when they grow up and they get into their 30s and 40s and 50s, like the millennials are now, that they are going to even be more sick with nostalgia. Now, again, it sounds like it's not a problem, but it could be, It could be when everything's memorialized, everything is captured, everything's in high def, 4K. It also, it can be, I think, painful to watch the past too. A lot of times the past will live in your head, and that's sometimes the best place for it to live. And you don't have actual, events on camera that maybe you don't want to relive or see. And today everything is, my God, if it's not on your phone, if you post it online, it's there. you can delete it, but it never really goes away. So certainly good and bad to it. There's a lot more you'll remember in this generation because there's a lot more you're capturing with basically our, the phones in our pockets, which are just high def cameras that we capture or carry with us everywhere. But it also presents a danger of like mental health issues that we're already all experiencing, right? All right. I'll get off my TED Talk. Let's go. So we got Punk. We had McIntyre complain how Punk is always attacking him from behind. And that's when Punk did that very thing. He appeared, hit McIntyre from behind. The babyface hitting McIntyre from behind. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but I guess that's the way we're going. Fans didn't care. They fought to ringside. They were whipping each other with a leather strap. McIntyre picked up the strap. He got backdropped onto the broadcast table, and then Punk got a few good shots in on McIntyre. And then security ended up getting whipped around by Punk. Security did not have a good night, by the way. There's more to that later. I mean, the security is just like, they are just local wrestling talent in security shirts, but it's just that they had a pretty rough night overall. We had Punk and 3 security guards. As I said, he tossed them out of the ring. Punk was pretty intense. He had it's interesting when you have Punk there and he doesn't actually talk. He's actually doing something physical. It's unusual because that's not Punk's thing, but he continues to attack McIntyre from behind. So it's just an interesting little factoid that babyfaces typically don't do that. If babyfaces are typically the ones to straight up mano-a-mano go after their opponent. And so, all right, let's continue. And we have, let's see, Braun Strowman. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We'll get there. Jey Uso, Kofi, Karrion Kross in a triple threat for the Intercontinental title. Well, shot at the Intercontinental title. This match went 8 minutes and 45 seconds with Jey Uso winning and beating Kofi and Kross. Okay, the match had the favorite win. Jey Uso was the favorite here, but I could have seen a scenario which Kofi won this one and yet Xavier win the next one. That didn't happen, but Jey Uso is the bigger star here, even though he's poised to move over to SmackDown, I think in the near future to probably the next month or two to be able to work with Roman Reigns and counter the whole new bloodline versus OG bloodline story. So Jey Uso, while he advances and he goes to the Fatal 4-Way, even if he wins that, he doesn't have almost any chance of winning the Intercontinental title. Really, whoever wins that Fatal 4-Way, that all of these triple threats are qualifying those to enter, it's almost a sure thing that person is not going to win, even if it's Jey Uso. Crazy, though, that Jey Uso has yet to win singles gold. It's just wild. All right. We had a Gunther promo from social media air, which was not on Hulu, and I know some of you, watch Hulu version. Yeah, well, I don't watch the Hulu version. Or I'm sorry, I don't watch the full version. I watch the highlights from the things that aren't on Hulu. This I must have missed with the Gunther promo, but Randy Orton was shown walking backstage, and Cole hyped that SmackDown will debut on the USA Network on September 13th. Cole said he and Graves will be reunited on SmackDown. And let's see, we've got Randy Orton coming out, as I said. Weird promo, but also effective, as I've mentioned earlier in the show. Growing up in front of fans, he signed his contract at age 19. He said the fans saw him get humbled over and over, and he learned from his mistakes. And Orton said he eventually had to step from behind the shadows and earn every ounce of respect. And then, of course, ended with the 3 most dangerous letters, RKO, blah, 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 right. So, now this particular review said it was, quote, a well-delivered promo, but Orton covered a lot of the same ground he's already covered in the past. Although his history with the World Championship was a new talking point, it just wasn't overall that convincing. I would concur with that. Yeah, you can deliver a promo really well, even if the context of it is repetitive. So I would concur with that. I would. Bronson Reed, Braun Stroman. This ended in a double count out in about 9 minutes. My God. Okay. This, it was a train wreck. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I mean that complimentary, because while I'm not a fan particularly of Braun Strowman, because I think he's a one-trick pony, his promos are about the same as if you've seen one Braun Strowman promo, you've seen them all. He's a big guy. Yes, he can do athletic things. And today's product, even when you have big men that are a combined weight of over 700 pounds in the ring, they're still trying to do the things that guys who are half their weight do, because that's apparently the product today, and they have to try to show us they can still do those things. When in fact, I would actually prefer that big men wrestle like big men. I mean, call me crazy. But yeah, seeing, Bronson Reed do a suicide dive, yeah, it's insane, but also why? Just to show us you can? I mean, so I just said this was a complimentary match, and it was. I'll get to the good part, which is a lot of it. My point is just generally about the big men who feel like they need to do the things that men half their size do. And sure, it's because, you don't see big men do it like this. Yeah, but there's a reason for that. Because they don't need to. They shouldn't be. It's nice to have a different flavor in my mouth of matches where everything is not just suicide dives and, moonsaults, and those are all fun to watch, but the product today has become so much more reliant on athleticism and less on being a wrestler. Being a wrestler doesn't necessarily mean being ultra athletic. Now, in the amateur sense, in the Olympics, of course, yeah, like amateur wrestling, you need to be athletic, you need to be strong, you need to all that does apply. But when it comes to pro wrestling, there's been such a swing to the athletic side of things that's what we want to see, and that's the important and desirable attribute is athleticism. That to me is it's gone too far, because now even the men who should have no business doing it are just doing it for shock value and to show us they can still wrestle like everybody else on the roster, when actually I think it would be better if they didn't, because not only is it, of course, higher risk unnecessarily, but also, again, it's like the same style of wrestling you're watching over and over and over and over and over. When big men have a slower pace, it's nice to have a slower pace every once in a while. Power moves. It's nice. It's a nice change of pace. But not when, they want to wrestle like, Ricochet did. And, hey. But speaking of Ricochet, quickly, before we move on to hour 3 here with this, I think it was a fun brawl in the parking lot. We haven't seen a parking lot brawl in a while. Ricochet, let me just say, and I had a little personal beef with him on Twitter several months back. He is a child on Twitter. Somebody needs to take his phone away and put him in timeout. You don't know what I'm talking about. Just go look at his feed. Yes, he's not with WWE anymore. He's with All Elite. Fine. And I'm glad for him. Sure. For his career, he is getting work. He's getting a paycheck. And he's a crazy athlete. Yes. But he's attacking fans who are critical of him. And he's attacking them in a way that's attacking how many followers they have. Oh, you've got 300 followers. You only got 12 followers. Whatever. Now, that is, if you're a public figure and you are now attacking people based on the number of followers they have, that's all you've got? How old is Ricochet? Hey, I have done the same thing with people that have attacked me, because it's low-hanging fruit. It's easy to hit somebody on that. But I'm also not in the public eye. I'm not on national television every week. I don't have a company to beholden to. I'm not somebody that, if I do that, I have someone come out and say, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's insulting to fans. No one's going to say that to me. If they did, I'd laugh at them and then triple down on it. But when you are beholden to representing a company and you're attacking the fans that are the ones putting money in your pocket and coming after them as if their worth is based on how many followers they have, grow up. Ricochet needs to stay off social media. Does he know how it works? Is is he new? Did his parents just get him internet access? He is a child on social media. He just is. So you know what I did, of course, because I can't sit back. What I did is I had a burner account that I'll keep anonymous, and I have like no followers on there. It's just a burner account that I can, hit people with whenever I need to without hitting my own account. We all have burner accounts, let's be honest. If you want to make one, I highly recommend it. But I hit him with the fact, and this is just true. I said, this is coming from a guy who had his girlfriend be more successful in WWE than you were, and she didn't even have to take a bump. Something to that effect. I said it in a more eloquent way. I'm just paraphrasing that, look who's talking. Your girlfriend didn't take a single bump and she was more over than you were in WWE. So, yeah. But anyway, I don't understand it. He just is frozen at 14 years old. I guess that's rich coming from someone that just did the very thing that, I'm accusing him of. But he's a guy that's held to a higher standard because he's the one in the public eye representing a company, a multi-million-dollar company. Not me. That's not the position I'm in. That's the position he's in. So anyway, and by the way, if you're in that position and you get criticism from fans, your ability to absorb criticism is critical to your success. Because if you get to the public eye and you think everyone's going to be complimentary all the time, this even goes for people at my level, the little peons down to doing podcasting. If you think everybody's just going to be all nice all the time and complimentary, then you are in the wrong business. And when you get something negative and you have to respond back to it, and then you just get all bent out of shape over it, then you should probably go into a different business. Was he not aware that the fact that not everyone loves everything he does all the time? Oh, just a baby. Alrighty. So anyway, Braun Stroman and Bronson Reed killed it here. And I literally mean they almost killed each other, especially Bronson Reed. Did you guys see the bump he took off the car onto the concrete? I saw that and I go, oh my God. That's concrete. That's not a ring. That's not a worked surface. That is straight up sidewalk or pavement, whatever he landed on. Oh my God. I just looked at Braun Strowman. I'm like, the dude has to have a dislocated shoulder or at least a contusion. Something. They beat the hell out of each other, and I loved it. And I love the tsunami off the little, I don't know what it was. The little, I don't know. He jumped off of a concrete surface on top of the car onto Braun Strowman. Bronson Reed walked away from it. Braun Strowman didn't. The car kind of sparked and exploded a little, which was kind of a nice effect. But it was great. And, of course, Adam Pearce is out of his mind, as he always is. Oh, we need medical, which took the medical team like forever to come out there. There's an ambulance like right next to where they did this spot. Did anyone see that? There's an ambulance right there. I mean, I guess it wasn't banned, but like, where were the EMTs? Just like, why did it take them so long to respond? I mean, it's just so funny watching Adam Pearce scream every week for medical. Alrighty. So this is fun and clearly not over. All right, Miz, Xavier Woods, and Pete Dunne in a triple threat. This ended with Pete Dunne defeating Miz and Xavier in 11 minutes. So he went. Pete Dunne advances. Not that it's going anywhere, but he advanced. And it was a fine match. And it looked like, by the way, Xavier and Kofi Kingston backstage mended the fences. They did mention, too, though, that we're almost coming up at 10 years. As someone said in the mailbag, 10 years here is coming up soon. I think there's a big turn by Xavier Woods coming. On the 10-year anniversary. That'd be very apropos. Okay, we had, what else here? Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley featured in a video promo and saying, yeah, you're damn right, we're the bad guys. And Ripley said, it never felt so good to be bad. And Priest and Ripley, they work very well together, by the way. I think their chemistry is on point, or on fleek, as the kids would say. They work well together. I don't know how long this alliance is going to last. Probably in the next month or so, two tops, before they go their separate ways. Once Ripley gets her hands on Dom, hits Riptide on Dom, maybe that'll be the conclusion, because that's what we want. And we want also the finish hit on, and a conclusive finish hit on Finn Balor by Damian Priest. You know, that's really the payoff here, is that. And we'll probably get that in the next month or so. But again, Bad Blood's coming, and Bad Blood would be a very perfect, especially the name of the event, it would be a perfect finish to this rivalry. Bad Blood. There's bad blood between them, and that's exactly what this is. And I think the Bad Blood event is going to conclude a lot of different rivalries that are stirring, and we'll reset things when the November event comes along with Survivor Series. All right. Or is Crown Jewel in October? Oh, good Lord. Yeah. Uncle Howdy versus Chad Gable is already mentioned at the beginning of the show as well. So, yeah, overall, a good Raw, kind of a weird Raw, but one that was effective, one that had a main event that I don't think anybody was, just a couple months ago would have main evented Raw. But here we are, and I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this show. We are here again tomorrow tomorrow I'll be doing my other podcast, which is called The War on Truth. So take a listen to that. I have some people that have wrote into the show that I want to, I'll keep them anonymous, but they wrote into the show, and I'll be responding to some of those comments. Again, not a show on wrestling. It's very heavy on politics and culture. So it's called The War on Truth. And it's the icon, when you search for it, the one with the laptop and the American flag. Okay. Not the other one, not the BBC one. I know some of you have asked. It's The War on Truth, the one with the laptop and American flag. So check that out on, really, I think anywhere you can at this point, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else. So it is not wrestling based. All right. So if you're expecting wrestling and you're like, hey, I don't want wrestling, well, don't go with this. All right. So stick on the WWE podcast, though, as we have wall-to-wall coverage for the Bash in Berlin. We'll do predictions later this week. I'll have a new episode of The War on Truth tomorrow. All right. So for those of you on the War on Truth side of things and non-wrestling stuff, a new episode will drop tomorrow. I just got to record it. I'm not doing it tonight. I'm too tired. I got to go to bed, but I appreciate everybody's support. Thank you. You can head on over to Apple Podcasts and get a subscription there. Go ad-free for a week for free. Try us out. You can also try for a week for free on Spotify and on Patreon. If you want to go ad-free for a week and do a trial membership, you can do that as well and not have to commit to anything and see if you like it. If you do, great. If you don't, well, then, that's cool too. You can continue to listen to us on the free feed. But that'll do it for me tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I will be back in a day or two, and I'll be talking to those of you on the War on Truth tomorrow. Until then, take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.